yeah. So Turtle Rock Studios, we started as a studio on Condition Zero, Counter-Strike Condition Zero, and that was on like Xbox and PC. We started on that, and we continued working on Counter-Strike franchise. We worked on Counter-Strike Source, and then a bunch of maps and more stuff for Counter-Strike. And then we started to do our own thing. We wanted to make kind of our own game, something that people inside of Turtle Rock Studios wanted to make. And that really turned into Left 4 Dead. And so we worked on Left 4 Dead for a number of years. Valve was funding it, and they liked the game a lot, and they liked the studio a lot, and so they purchased Turtle Rock Studios, and really effectively Turtle Rock Studios kind of became Valve South for a while, for that last year. And then we shipped Left 4 Dead, and then we really wanted to sort of roll back out and be an independent studio again. And Phil and I, we had the opportunity to do that, and Phil and I took the studio and rolled back out, and got our name back. Valve worked with us on that stuff, and we became independent studio again, and most of the team who worked on Left 4 Dead stayed at Turtle Rock Studios. And we continued working with Valve, and we worked on some more DLC for Left 4 Dead. And then it was really, we started looking at, what do we do next? What's the next thing that Turtle Rock wants to do as a product? And so then we had this idea of Evolve. It was an old idea from way back in the day. We all worked together for, some of us for 17 years at this point. So it's a very long time, and over those years we've talked about different game ideas and different things we'd like to experience as a gamer that no game was, providing at that time. Evolve was one of those ideas, and so we kind of came back to that after Left 4 Dead and said, you know what, let's try to make Evolve again. And so we took that idea, made a pitch, and we pitched it around to publishers, and fortunately it got picked up. And so, we're still an independent studio, and we've been working on Evolve now for 4 years. It comes out in February, so it's going to be crazy for us to see this game be released to gamers for real. And yeah, we're small, just a kind of a smallish studio, less than 100 people, working on the game, trying to finish it up now. We're in the final months before release.
Evolve is it's like a cooperative and competitive experience at the same time. I mean, the way the sort of elevator pitch is, it's a 4 versus 1 cooperative competitive shooter, and it sort of plays out like a giant boss battle. You have 4 people, 4 humans cooperating to try and bring down one big, nasty, growing, evolving monster. Right, and the cool thing about that is that in our case, the boss is one of your buddies. Somebody can play the monster. That's always been one of the core sort of things about the game. The thing is, we've all played tons of games that have boss battles, right? I mean, since way back, right? There's always that boss battle, but you never really got a chance to be the boss. Those boss battles always tended to be kind of predictable, the monster rears up to hit you and he shows his little weak spot and you shoot the weak spot and rinse, wash, repeat, right? Yeah, I mean, what we wanted to do is say, hey, let's give the boss to a person to play, right? And that makes the boss unpredictable, and it sort of really ups the stakes and makes it a much more sort of engaging and exciting experience.
Yeah, and it winds up being a little bit like 2 games in one. A lot of people will really gravitate towards the monster, and because they're playing by themselves, they don't have to rely on anybody else. They get to be this big, powerful, scary monster, and they really enjoy that. And it's third person, and that suits particular people. And then we have the hunters, which are very, very co-op. They rely on each other. They need to work together to be successful, and that's first-person shooter. And so that, the hunters feel like one game, the monster feels like another game, and they're both kind of wrapped up. So it's kind of up to you to choose, what you like best.
A lot of people ask us that question, why 4? And there's not really a hardcore mathematical scientific reason, right? It's just as we do, we play test the hell out of our games, every night, and 4 always just ends up being this really nice, comfortable number.
Yeah, we on the survivors it winds up working really, or on the hunters it winds up working really well. And this is something that we learned in Left 4 Dead, is that I could keep track of 3 teammates pretty easily, but it was very hard to keep track of 4. It's something, for whatever reason, it's like your mind can only sort of keep track of 3 moving parts and not the 4th one. And so it wound up, we experimented a lot in Left 4 Dead, and it wound up with that magic number, and that's really where we started with Evolve. Just sort of kept all those learnings and tried to experiment with different things in Evolve.
Having created Left 4 Dead certainly got our foot in the door, and really played, helped out a lot. But yeah, at the same time, people expect bigger and better things. Right now, I think in our opinion, we've accomplished that, right? But then, as we go and more people play it and more people get to know it, throughout the life of sort of the marketing campaign and introducing it to the community and stuff, we keep winning these awards, and it's like, okay, the pressure just keeps mounting and mounting and mounting, and I think that's a good thing, right? I mean, it keeps you on your toes, it keeps you humble, and it keeps you a little bit scared shitless, which I think in the grand scheme of things is a good thing, because it makes you, you don't want to disappoint all those people. Yeah.
At Turtle Rock, we love co-op games. We love that really kind of like, I am depending on you, and you're depending on me, and we love that sort of coexistence and camaraderie in that. Yeah, and so co-op's just been, Left 4 Dead. I think the thing that really set it apart at the end of the day was that it was built from the ground up. From day one, it was built from the ground up to be a co-op experience. And a lot of games, there were a lot of co-op modes and stuff that were introduced later. Oh, you can play this game in co-op also, right? But it's very added on.
Yeah, it's a tacked on sort of like afterthought.
And so I don't know. I mean, that's one of the best things about the game industry and sort of any type of art in the world, is everybody sort of has different opinions and different things that they're into. And there's a bunch of, we play the heck out of all different kinds of games. Phil plays a ton of Minecraft. I was gaga over Last of Us last year, and Last of Us is a narrative-driven, very linear experience. And I'm glad that somebody's out there doing that, and it's not what we're doing. And I think that just makes the whole industry kind of more rich. And so fortunately for us, the thing that we love to do, co-op, it's not kind of a very overcrowded area.
I mean, and there's no magic formula to it either. I mean, you have to play. You have to get in there and play the game as much as possible. If you're not willing to do that, then it's going to make coming up with that experience, a good experience, much more difficult. And I don't know. I think making a co-op experience is maybe a little more difficult. I could be wrong. I mean, just because you're never guaranteed that everyone's going to cooperate.
Yeah, everybody's scared of that, right? Like, right. What happens if the guy in my server doesn't want to play? Right. It's like, well, he probably wouldn't have bought the game. He probably wouldn't want to join the multiplayer game, join the matchmaking and trying to get into a game. So we were really worried about that with Left 4 Dead. You don't have to share health kits in Left 4 Dead. I can go to the checkpoint and I can use all the health kits, but
you're probably not going to win.
You're not going to win. Yeah. And so we kind of assume everybody wants to play to win.
Let's move on. There's more to do.
We did in Left 4 Dead. We had split screen in Left 4 Dead, but the price that you pay for that. In Left 4 Dead, we were fading props out early, mailboxes, even cars would fade out early.
Because essentially what you're doing is you're having to draw the game twice on the screen.
So you have to draw half as much each time.
Right.
And in Left 4 Dead, say a zombie hiding behind a car in Left 4 Dead, and then that car fades out too soon, doesn't really break the game. But in our game, which kind of boils down to kind of like, in hunt mode at least, it boils down to like a hide and go seek type of a game where the monster needs to be able to hide in the environment and hide behind rocks and bushes and that sort of thing. We can fade those things early. If we did, it would break the game. Initially, also we looked at things like the wildlife. We want there to be lots of different species of wildlife, and they all have their own AI behaviors and everything. And the monster needs to eat those wildlife in order to stage up and get bigger and stronger. And so one of the things you have to do is sort of reduce the number of enemies, you know, in split screen. We'd have to reduce the wildlife populations. And we just really felt like at the end of the day we were sacrificing, you know, too much of the vision of what Evolve was supposed to be in order to try to make split screen work. So at the end of the day, it was a really difficult decision, and it was really hard for us, but you know, at the end of the day, it's the right, we believe it's the right thing to do.
It's been nice to see that we're not the only game out there that has had to deal with this, you know, to deal with that problem. I think it's just, I mean, largely it's going to be defined by, you know, what the community wants. I mean, I don't know how you feel, but I feel like it would be a bit presumptuous for us to say, hey, we're an esport. You know, I mean, but no games do that, right? You don't make a game to be an esport. You make a fun game, right? And then the community says, hey, we really like watching your game, you know? And, you know, and then it sort of builds up from there. I don't think there's ever been any game that's been made to be an esport, right? So for us, it's like we see that there's a lot of potential, you know what I mean? Because the game's fun to watch. Anytime we have it sort of broadcasted on Twitch or, you know, at the conferences and stuff like that, everyone sort of gathers around and likes watching it, you know, and it's engaging even when you're not playing. So I think that, you know, the potential is there, and we would certainly be, you know, willing to support it. But I think we want to wait and see how the community feels about it.
The reason that we had the big alpha was to learn. You know, we expect that not everything is going to go the way we expect, and so you know, some things went really well. You know, the team, it's also good to put the team through things, paces. Like we learned how quick and how easy or difficult it is to bring up more servers, because there was more people, like Europe had way more players than we expected, and they were overflowing servers into other countries. And so we had to spool up new servers, and it's great exercise to put the team through. We had to patch the PlayStation multiple times, and so it was great for the team to be there, see a problem, go to work on it, get a patch, test it, update it, push the patch out. You know, all that stuff. It's all learning for us, and it's all going towards you know, having a really good beta. And you know, we know that not everything's going to go right in the beta either, but it should be closer than it was in the alpha. You know, and we'll learn more in the beta, and then by launch time, you know, the hope is that by doing all this extra hard work and testing stuff early, that
smooth
launch will go really smooth.
Considering that the matchmaking was kind of messed up, and, you know, we had some other problems, I feel like that's a pretty big victory. You know, I mean, I think it could only get better. You know.
Yeah, so we made some adjustments. We made some adjustments to our matchmaking system. We made a little bit of adjustments to some progression numbers to Kraken. And so, you know, we'll go into the beta and hopefully do it again, and hopefully we'll see that 57% will be even a little bit closer. But yeah, not bad. 1.3 million games played and 57%. You know, that's a far cry from. There were a lot of people that were saying, you know, no way this is 4v1 is ever going to work. So I think.
Yeah, impossible to balance. Blah, blah, blah,
yeah. So it was nice. It was nice to put it out there and test with that many games. I mean, we had. At the end of the first day of the big alpha, more games were played there than in the entire history of Evolve added up. You know, so internally we have maybe 35,000 rounds. You know, at the end of the first day, I can't remember what the number was, 120 something thousand rounds or something like that. So it just kind of eclipsed everything, and so it was the first like real big test.
Coming up with our first monster, Goliath, it took us quite a while. We went through a lot of revisions. And he started out as sort of like this weird crab monster, right? And then he kind of morphed into these like very abstract kind of difficult to even tell what he is kind of monsters. And in the end of the day, what we found out was that you want an original monster, right? I mean, you want a monster that says, hey, this is Evolve, right? That's an Evolve monster, and we can see that. But you don't want to sacrifice the ability to sort of connect on an emotional level with that monster for the sake of making it original, right? Or something that nobody else has ever done, right? Ultimately, I think that if we were just fighting these monsters all the time, it might be okay to go with something a little more abstract. But the fact that you were going to play this monster, right? You want the monster to be, in a way, lovable, right? I mean, not lovable like, you know, a teddy bear, but something that, you know, you can sort of look at and connect with, you know. Oh, look, there's his two eyes, there's his mouth. I get that, right? Oh, look, he's got claws that are kind of like human hands. I get that. And it allows you to sort of connect to the monster, you know, in that way. Ultimately, you want them to be scary. You want them to be aspirational. You know, you want to look at that guy and you say, "Oh, that's a cool monster. I really want to be him."
And you want it to be fun to play.
Yeah, obviously.
We spend a lot of time. We have a lot of abilities. We test a lot of abilities that maybe work really well and they're effective at winning the game. If you use this ability, you can be effective. But everybody's like, it's not. I don't take it because it's not fun. You know, so we've had to experiment a lot and learn, you know, what things are, what abilities, what types of abilities are fun and what types of abilities are not necessarily fun.
We started out with it was only 4 characters, but
I don't know, we had like 70 pieces of gear or something like that.
You know, weapons and different sort of various things.
So you'd choose, you'd get a character and then you'd go to choose gear and you just have this huge list of gear, and like nobody wanted to scroll through that. Nobody wanted to look at all those pieces of gear and try to make a decision. It's just overwhelming. You know, it's a lot easier to look at a character and go, oh, Markov's got electricity and he looks kind of cool, I'm going to take him. You know, or I'm going to choose the medic. If I choose the medic, then everybody knows I'm the medic and what my job is. I know what my job is. Phil knows what my job is. So yeah, the classes, I mean, we really wanted the game to be able to be played over and over and over again, and for you to always be able to try something new. And that meant a lot of pieces of gear and a lot of different, abilities for monsters and a lot of different things to try every time. But at the end of the day, it communicated a lot better to players if we broke that gear down into classes and we labeled them, and then we went farther and broke those down into characters so they all have their thing, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing about having all those separate pieces of gear is that players and teams were able to screw themselves, you know, right from the get-go. I mean, basically it was like you may as well not even play the match, because based on the gear that you chose, you already lost. And you know, and Chris always said, you know, if you've lost the game before you even start playing, then we failed. So going to, you know, taking all that gear and sort of breaking it up into those little individual packets of gameplay, for us, that was kind of like, okay, this is more manageable. Mm-hmm. We've got 3 kind of unique, very strong, intelligent female characters that have all their clothes on, that wear very functional and use very functional things and can hang toe-to-toe with the male characters. It wasn't formalized. We didn't say, okay, this character needs to be a girl, this character needs to be a boy. We just sort of looked at what the characters were and just sort of went with our gut. And if the character felt like it needed to be a woman, then we went with that. In some cases, we made some characters, we started out with some characters as a woman, and it just didn't feel right, you know. I mean, and it was really, you know, it sounds kind of touchy-feely and strange, but that's the way we did it.
Markov was a woman.
Yeah, Markov started off as a woman, and you know, it was an interesting idea, but at the end of the day, it didn't feel right. So there was no sort of political agenda, I guess is what I'm trying to say, and there remains no political agenda.
And we do want to do more.
We do want to do more, for sure.
We want to. At the end of the day, like somebody mentioned that they wanted to have like wanted to be able to have like an all-female hunter team, mm-hmm. and we think that would be really cool too. I'd like to see that as well.
Yep.
You know, so hopefully in the future, people are, you know, there's the opportunity for us to keep working on the game and keep introducing more content, mm-hmm. And hopefully we can do that.